We're here to talk primarily about sugar. And so my first question to you is, do you consider sugar a food or a drug?
Unequivocally, with no exception and no argument, it's a drug. It's a processed, down to no uh, worthwhile nutrients at all. And it's very similar to the processing of cocaine. It's like they think of coca leaves as you chew them, you get a little bit of a buzz. But when it's processed, forget about processed into crack, but it's processed into just powder, it's a drug. And sugar is the same. And it's what that question may be the most important question of this entire society and world going forward in the next 20 or 30 years. It is going to bankrupt the British and the Canadian governments with blood sugar dysregulation, diabetes, weight gain, obesity, heart disease, fatty liver. They're just not going to be able to sustain. 93% of the people in the United States are not metabolically healthy. And it's because of primarily sugar and ultra processed carbohydrates, which are also drugs, by the way.
Yeah.
Flour is also a drug.
Wow.
So an important question, and no one's ever asked me that right up front. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I really wanted to get that out of the way. And I live in a place that largely, I live in the Salt Lake Valley. So there's a lot of people of the Mormon faith around here. And so they are avoiding things like alcohol. They're avoiding drugs. They don't even drink coffee or tea, for example. And so, what we see around here, what we're getting famous for when, there's these shows like The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City or whatever, is our soda shops. We have soda shops seemingly on every corner. And not only do they sell giant sodas, but they pump extra flavoring inside them and fill them with cookies. And that's perfectly okay. That's not part of the health code that most Mormons live by, that you can have as much sugar as you want. I grew up Mormon and we had tons of sugar around all the time. And so it's really interesting when we say unequivocally this is a drug, yet I'm not. I don't have the wherewithal to go find cocaine in my neighborhood. I don't even know who to ask, but I can go, right down the street and go buy a bucket of sugar. If that's a drug that's just as dangerous, why is that so, cheap and available to me? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's kind of sad, really. And, it's weird coming from our ecosystem where we've done a summit for 12, 13 years where we've talked to four or 500 of the world's leading experts. And it's almost like there's a group of people who know about this, and then 99 or 98% of the rest of the population has no earthly idea about the dangers of it. I mean, the true metabolic dangers of it. A lot of people think it's just aging, that all of their ailments are just aging, their skin, their eyes. They think it's, I'm getting older, and the joints especially, paper rheumatoid arthritis, I swear to you, is a paper tiger. There is no, I don't even believe it exists because I believe it's sugar. 95+% of the people who work with us, their hands and knees stop hurting almost immediately. And one woman, this is 2.5 years ago, she had one knee operation, had the other one scheduled. I said, give me 90 days. This 2.5 years later, she has still not had that second operation. Everything just stopped hurting. She didn't really need the operation. And this goes on of all the things, this is almost a 100% clear rate. Like people stop hurting in their joints. And that's just one thing. There's 100 other things, but
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, I'm excited to deep dive into this topic and kind of jump the gun a little bit by asking you about sugar and whether it's a drug or not. I want to hear your own personal story. You've been at this for a very, very long time. Tell us your kind of story around addiction and sugar addiction in particular.
yeah, thanks. So, this is probably, I don't know, unless someone's heard me before, the story is pretty common, but my favorite junkie in the world was my mom. My mother was, it's an interesting story in that Her mother died when she was 8 years old, and when she passed away, they owned the country store across the way, the family did, and my grandfather made a deal with his cousin Jim that anytime my mom walked into that store, she could have any candy she wanted, just put it on his tab. And it was a wonderful, he was working and he had to move in with his sister. And so she didn't have much supervision. And so she was at the store a lot. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is that it was a wonderful thing to do for a child who just lost her mom. But bottom line is, it developed a love affair. And this is common with the women we work with of that, it would be of that age or even younger, is that she grew up believing and died believing sugar is love. Sugar is how you show love. And she did that to us, not in a manipulative or mean way, but that's just what she believed. I mean, that if you share this, you're sharing love. We bake cookies every Saturday morning. We just had all kinds of we would drink Kool-Aid with 3 times the recipe, like 3 cups in that little packet. And we would have bread and butter and sugar sandwiches, and we had unfettered access to the sugar bowl. We could eat I got that sugar bowl from the estate. We could have as much sugar as we wanted on our cornflakes or our Cheerios. I mean, like no one said no, no one said don't. It was we literally would scraping like quarter or half an inch of sugar with the milk at the bottom. Anyway, fast forward, that's how I grew up. The candy around the house, the candy that we had access to, the candy that we would eat was insane. Uh, and fast forward again, I ran into beer at 14 years old. Now, this is probably the most important linchpin, the important thing of the change process that people will need as we go forward. If they take only one thing from this talk, is that the beer changed my state, like a Tony Robbins seminar. Beer changed how I felt, right? I was shy and I could go behind the school and talk to or I could go drink beer behind the school before the dance and talk to the girls. And that went on till I was 28 years old, right? And I got sober. And when I got sober, all I wanted to do was get healthy. I just wanted to not, um, you know, I read a book called Sugar Blues, a really famous book at the time, written by a guy who eventually married Gloria Swanson, the famous movie star, and they promoted it everywhere, okay? And it was very, very popular. Somehow I ended up with it, and I just stuck in my head. I don't know how. Anyway, I raised a couple of kids sugar-free till they were 6 years old, okay, after that. And if I could tell you the story, if I told you the story about my kids, you would think I was lying to you or bragging or both or dad love or whatever. But I truly believe, and now there are very large nonprofits, the first 1,000 days, that those first 1,000 days of life, uh, it the brain growth is so insane in that time period that feeding kids sugar, and also on the other end, my mother died of Alzheimer's. It's the most advanced and ascending information on the planet, which is how sugar affects the brain. Okay. And the development of the brain at six, from literally in the womb till they were 6 years old. I'm just not that smart. They're like literally rocket scientists smart, and perfect scores on their college entrance exams smart. I'm not that smart, right? Anyway, I had a regular life. I had a regular career. The kids always said I should write a book. And so in 2018, I was kind of semi-retired, right? And I was I was thinking about what I was going to do. And I wrote the book, and I started coaching people. Though, it's on Amazon, The Last Resort Sugar Detox. And I was coaching people. We were having meetings once a week, twice a week with all the people I was coaching. And I tell people I had to build the company backwards, meaning I knew that we needed meetings. We needed the support system that is meetings, and it was Zoom meetings, right? So we were meeting every, Tuesday or Wednesday, with all the people I was coaching. Anyway, then the pandemic hit, right? And all hell just broke loose. We went from 2 meetings a week to 4 or 5 meetings a day in 18 months. And that's where we are today.